October, November, December.
Before I visited Jamie Schenk's kindergarten class at Rochester's World of Inquiry School, she wanted to make something clear.
A lot of the things that I do, the reason I don't necessarily find them remarkable is I find it to be a responsibility.
She explained that she does not want this to be another story about a white person coming to the rescue of minorities who are trying to make ends meet or struggling to provide a quality education for their kids.
Every parent sees their child being successful and being amazing and doing incredible things for our community.
Is Mrs. Schenk known to provide clothes, groceries, and other basic resources for the students in her class? Sure. But she maintains it's because her job, her calling, is to find ways to lessen the load caused by a system of biases and inequities so these kids can achieve the same type of success all parents desire.
Many of them work multiple jobs and go to school and are raising their family and rely on public transportation, and still they show up when I ask them to. So that's something that I definitely hold dear to my heart.
Part of the reason parents show up is due to the relationships Schenk builds and the connections she maintains.
She actually surprised me more than anything, just because of her presence and also just being very aware of our culture. I think that was extremely helpful. And at first I was a little taken back because I was like, well, how'd she know about this? So it was very interesting for her to be able to relate. But then I also seen her actually not just preach it, she practices it.
Schenk admits she thought it was her job to save these children, but she quickly learned that what they need is someone who has honest conversations about race with their families and understands how it affects what she knows and doesn't know about them.
Teaching about melanin, teaching about the complexions and colors of Black African Americans, but understanding where she comes from. She says, even though, I may be white, I do understand where you're coming from.
Her advocacy doesn't stop at the end of kindergarten. Schenk shows up for high school and college graduations, award ceremonies, and when there are tragedies and sad occasions like cancer diagnosis or memorial services for students or parents who have passed away, she's present. Recently, when classrooms sat vacant during the pandemic, she made house visits.
So when I shared with her just how hard it was to get him to engage, she literally was like, well, I could come to your house and I could be outside. And I was like, what? Who does that?
I just sort of rolled up on on their porch, and he was like, oh my gosh. So we hung out for a while in the driveway, and we chalked and talked and drew and read and did some writing. And it was really rewarding for me, to be back in the presence of a little human, and really good for his little soul, too.
Devin is in second grade now, but as she does with many families, Schenk checks on his progress through his mom. In late January, she got a surprise update from another parent whose daughter she taught 12 years earlier.
I was just walking into school, and there had been a broken down bus out front, and I took notice of it, and one of the mechanics looks up and says, Mrs. Schenk? Mrs. Schenk? Oh my gosh, is it you? Is it Mrs. Schenk? And I immediately knew who he was.
Their encounter, caught on security camera, speaks for itself.
We had this moment of embracing and just...
During the impromptu reunion, she learned how Mr. Young's daughter is now studying to become an oncologist.
It is just pure joy. It's like the best thank you note, that you can get when somebody just has that level of surprise and excitement for seeing you.